I'm here to present a webinar session on composition of the earth and mineral resources.
That's very okay. At least what we are actually trying to know is to understand the physical. Most importantly, I want us to look at here is let's go to the physical recognition of. Let's go to physical recognition of minerals in the field. You know how we can recognize minerals. Okay, let me go back to this composition of minerals in the earth crust. I think third slide or something. The third slide, third slide. Okay, now look at this. I want you to just pick one or two things here. If you look at it, the oxygen is the most abundant, followed by silicon and aluminium. This is one of the reasons you see more of the silica in any of your observations. Whatever you test, you see SiO2, that is silica. It's trying to tell you of composition of oxygen and silicon are more in abundance. You can see the last test we did, we're able to see, how did you see all the, you found out that our XRF identified oxygen, silicon, aluminum, iron, calcium in just the way they are going. You understand? That is most of the composition of the earth crust, you know. So that is the reason for that. Then go on. So go on to the physical identification of mineral. Let's look at them because they are very important. Most of the time we'll go through this. We'll go through this by just naming them. Physical characteristics of minerals. This is actually what we can physically see in the field and identify a rock or a mineral. You know, these are most important things. You know, I want you to really understand it, but most of the time they are not really, experience can teach you a lot of things. There are some rocks or minerals you see, you can easily identify them by mere observation because of their color, because of their streak. The streak is that there's a streak. The color a mineral produces on a streak plate. When you strike the mineral on a streak plate, you see a particular kind of color. The streak color is actually can be used to identify a mineral. And then again, you call this thing, what do you call the number 3? Can you pronounce it?
Luster.
It's not, it's luster. Okay, that's correct. Luster, okay. Now, you know, this is, it can be metallic, it can be earthy, it can be, you know, is the way mineral actually looks like. The one you are used to here is lead. You see, you can say lead. What is the luster for lead? How can you describe the luster if it's lead?
It's metallic. It's
metallic. You understand? Then another thing is the hardness of the mineral in terms of mold scale, whether your finger can actually give it a scratch or not. You know, minerals are rated from 1 to 10. The highest, the first one being the talc, and the highest, the diamond, corundum, the 9th, and all that. So from this, you can see this is how you can rate mineral. You can easily, if your finger can actually scratch in the field, that's actually telling you that this mineral is below 3 already. So it means you are talking about a soft mineral. You understand? Talking about gypsum to talc. If your finger can't do that, then that will tell you that this is above calcite and all that. You cannot scratch calcite in the field with your fingernails, can you? You can't do that. The penknife can actually go on, can do that, you know. So this is actually a physical way. Another one is easily recognizable in the field is the cleavage. What do you mean by feasibility?
The melting point, how to measure the melting point of minerals.
Can you do that in the field?
No, you cannot actually. That's what
I'm saying. Is it something you can use in the field?
No.
Okay, okay. Now, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about it because we are talking about what you can use to recognize mineral easily in the field. So if you are talking about cleavage and fracture, cleavage is another thing. One directional, two directional, kind of three directional cleavage plane. You can actually see those, which is the most important thing is the mica, you know. Also recognize mineral. Another thing is the external crystal form. You know, the external crystallography of a mineral, the way it shapes. Some are prismatic, some are cubic, especially the quartz, you can actually see the crystal form physically without the aid of any microscope and all that. Then also the mineral composition, or the rock composition. If you see a rock in the field, the composition of the mineral can easily tell you. You can easily identify mica in it. You can easily identify quartz. You can easily identify feldspar. You can easily identify some other kind of mineral. You can easily identify within them, or a rock. How do you identify this is a granite, or this is a basalt, or you say this looks like peridotite, or this looks like, you know, any other kind of rock? By physical observation, there are some crystals you can easily see. The arrangement of crystals, very, very important. It's just like differentiating between the metamorphic rock and the igneous rock. You understand? You can actually differentiate between igneous and metamorphic rock truly by, they might have the same kind of minerals, but you can easily differentiate by crystal forms or cleavage forms or the habits. You understand? If you look at the crystal formation or this crystal arrangement of the metamorphic rock, most of them, they are aligned to a particular kind of plane. You can see some disruptions. You can see they are aligning to most of the time are aligning depending on the direction of pressure. You understand? Because that will tell you that it has actually been metamorphosed or actually undergone some various of metamorphism. So you can easily, but when you see igneous rock, most of that you can see that the crystals are still angular, are not actually been disrupted. You can see the arrangement of the crystal physically. You can see whether they are quartz, like the phenocryst, or some of the kind of granite we saw the last time. You can see that they actually the crystals are well arranged, not actually disrupted like what you can see in the metamorphic rock. You know, now you are saying dimensions with length. Yes, igneous rock, definitely it's something you can easily recognize from afar, even not very going close to it. There was a day we were traveling with one of my bosses, and she said something. She was asking, how do we know that this is the metamorphic body? Sorry, an igneous body, you know? By men looking at it, we look at it, when you look at it from the topography, definitely it stands out within the topography because of it withstands high weathering. And again, if you look at it, you find out that there's another thing. By vegetation, what is vegetation? How can you recognize whether this is an igneous body by men looking at vegetation? How can you do that? Who will tell me? How can vegetation tell you from afar, you are running on the road and you saw a body? How can you use vegetation to say that this looks like an igneous body or not?
Okay.
How can vegetation tell you? It's simply because igneous rock, most of igneous rock withstand high weathering. Because they will stand weathering, the exfoliation and every other kind of weathering do not actually happen easily. Now, you know, when rock weathers so much, it creates cracks and it creates fractures for plants to start growing. If you see rock, yes, most of the plants and vegetation, they don't grow on the rock. They grow in between the cracks because they are looking for where they will have access to soil, have access to water, and have access to air. Have you seen it? So the more the weathering, the more the vegetation. That is the real explanation for that. So from afar, you can see the vegetation that will tell you the extent and the degree of weathering the igneous rock has actually undergone. Just running on the road, you can see from your car that this must be an igneous body because look at vegetation is very, very scanty. You understand? That's the way you can actually recognize that. And again, the shape, you know, there's the way it pinches and the way it undulates. From the map and the contour, you can easily recognize the igneous body just from the contour, the way it forms molds and the way the angle forms. You can say this one looks like this ridge looks like igneous body. This does not look like igneous, but let's check whether this is an iron stone or this is any other kind of rock. they don't really form, they really form so high. You can see most of the rocks we have in Abuja ASICs. What do you think? The Zuma rock and the Oluma rock, all those kind of rock standing on the very high, having a very high, interesting heights. They are igneous bodies, igneous intrusions and all that. So the dimension, width, length and thicknesses can actually show you this is an igneous body, you know. And also, if you are getting a sample of igneous rock, you can actually recognize that by just the crystals, these colors, the and the weights. So let's go forward and see any other thing.
Sir, let me quickly ask a question here before we move.
Okay.
So all these mountains we have in the world, are they not made up of igneous rocks? From this?
Are they not made up of what? Are they not igneous bodies? Yes.
Mountainous area.
Yes, some are igneous, some are metamorphic. The mountainous, they are, most of them are granitic. They are granitic bodies.
Like Everest Mountain, Himalayas.
The compositions are granitic. You can check composition of all those mountains. Most mountains are granitic. They are not sedimentary. Sedimentary rock can never form mountains.
Yes, sedimentary can form
because they don't actually withstand the high weathering. That is just a simple analysis. Yes. Okay.
I want to ask, so whenever we see mozonite rock, we should expect to get copper, lead, zinc, or gold in the rock?
No. They say common economic mineral. This is, now you understand that there is no rock once you see it that shows you that this mineral is there. Remember that before any mineral form, structural control must be in place. Some certain conditions must be in place. If a rock forms and the rock is not fractured, there is no room for accumulation. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't really mean that once you see monzonite, it shows there must be copper, there must be lead, there must be zinc, there must be gold. No. But it's only trying to tell you that this is one, you understand? This is one of the rocks that is actually associated with what? With some of these minerals.
Okay.
But other conditions that are necessary must actually be there for the mineral to accumulate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you identify a mineral that occur in a vein-like pattern?
Mineral existing in different mode. All these things depends on the original mode of formation. So there's no particular mineral that, but most mineral have a particular, most of the kind of mode they actually occur in. Coal, gypsum are mainly sedimentary kind of mineral, and you see them occurring in in layers, in a stratified kind of, because of the mode of occurrence. You now ask yourself, how do coal form? Is the mode of formation that determines how they actually accumulate. Coal is not hydrothermal. Do you understand? It's organically kind of mineral that formed under pressure, temperature, diagenesis, compaction, and all that. So that's how you get some of those minerals, the way they occur. But most hydrothermal, magmatic, or metamorphism forming kind of minerals all occur because of movement of fluid. So when there is ejection of fluid from the magma or from any hydrothermal source, you expect them to accumulate where there is openings and when there are features or cracks and all that. So that's how you see them coming out of that vein.